Hi, everybody. I am here today to go over just an exercise that you can get some artwork started so that it can sort of open up some passages in your mind and artistically and creatively that you can apply to the art pieces that will be created for our HIV project. So the materials that I'm recommending to do something like this, but you can really use anything. But if you want to use what I'm using, you can go and get your ever popular crayola watercolor set. They're not very expensive. You can get them anywhere, Myers. You can get them at CVS. And just go to the either the art aisle or sometimes you can go to where the kids' materials are for school, and they'll have these. And what I like about this is I use this for myself because it's really easy to find. And come to find out, the watercolors that are in this set are pretty good. So you take this little piece of paper out, and now inside you've got a tray, and you've got all your colors, and there's 8 colors total, and then you get a brush. And the brush is decent, so it really is totally worth it. You can do mixing right here, and so that's what I'm going to be doing. And then you want to have something like some napkins or paper towel. And then this is something that shouldn't be too difficult to find now. Dollar stores are becoming a great resource for art materials, believe it or not. So if you hit the dollar store, you should be able to find a watercolor set like this. You want to get something that says watercolor on it if you can. If not, just use regular paper. But if you get watercolor paper, it happens to be something that holds water a lot better. So this paper is really thick, okay? And you can just see as I'm going like that, you can hear it and you can feel the sturdiness of it. So the last thing you need is a secret ingredient. It's called water. So now you know. This is what we're doing. This is where we're going with this. And what you're going to use this for is to wipe your brush in. So every once in a while, when you dip your brush in the water, before you put it in the color, you could actually dab it on here because sometimes, now for this exercise, it's not going to matter so much. But if you're trying to paint, something specific and being a little bit more careful, you don't want big splotches of water or colors that have water in them to be falling where you don't want them to. So that's what this is good. Just dab your brush off. The other thing is these are called palette watercolors, right? So we call them palettes because each of these is like its own separate palette. So I don't think in these per se you can take them out, but in some sets that are a little bit more expensive, you can actually remove these and you can buy a new one of that color and then insert it and replace it. So if you were one of those people that was really into this, then you might do something like that. But these don't look like they remove. So once it's depleted, then, you know, you're going to recycle it. So grabbing some water on your brush. So I'm going to bring my cup over here. You can't really see it, but it's right here. That's what I'm dipping into. So I'm going to get some water on my brush, and then I'm going to set the water in the color. I'm going to do that a couple times. And what you're doing is you're just giving a little pool of water to lay over the color, and it's starting to activate the color. So even though I just touched yellow, I'm still going into the green because no paint's really coming on my brush right now, because these watercolors need water to activate them in order to work. So it's different than other paints like acrylics and oil paints that come out of a tube, where you just start painting. So these need a little bit of a boost, kind of like, Now I just got some green on there. You see that little bit of green? So you just take your paper towel, dab it, and it takes it right up. And then to prevent that from happening, I'll just rinse off my brush, tap it on the paper towel, and then I'll add some clean water from a clean brush. So now all of these have some water on top, and it really doesn't take a long time. You don't have to wait very long to have the ability to start painting. So along with this asynchronous video demo, in the description, I will have some text to give you an idea of something that you can read to go along with what I'm doing. It's going to basically be what I'm saying in this video. So we're going to be talking about what we listened to when our advisors were at that really cool meeting. And we heard lots of great stories and lots of great information. And now we want to make some art. So we did some drawing during the meeting, but now we're actually at a new place where we've processed a lot of what they've shared with us. And we might not be necessarily at a place where we're ready to make the finished pieces. And that's good because doing something like this is really, it's just going to get your creative spirit moving inside your memory and active in the forefront of your mind. And you're not trying to draw or paint anything realistic. So this is not that type of exercise. This is more about working with this material, which is watercolor, and then utilizing uh, color to represent mood or feelings. So if you've never done this before, then just keep an open mind. There's no right or wrong. So everybody's piece is going to look completely different, and that's the whole purpose. So what I want you to do is think about the meeting that we were at, and then I want you to think about how your body feels based on the words that were spoken to us in that meeting. And then, close your eyes. And while you're closing your eyes, I want you to think about what you're feeling based on what you heard. And if those feelings that you're thinking about or sort of thinking back to, if they had a color, a shape, a form, a weight, a temperature, a texture, what would it be like? So imagine all the details of this feeling. Now you can put that feeling onto paper. So if you imagine these feelings being heavy or dark, then you can translate these feelings onto paper using colors, shapes, and lines. Be willing to work with these feelings. So in other words, let's say that some of the things that were spoken were dark and which we know, there was a lot of different feelings going on in that meeting, and a lot of it was uplifting and positive, and but there's a lot of it that you could resonate with and think of from more of a dark place because they were sharing really intimate parts of their lives. So think about if those feelings had a color, what would those colors be? So if it's dark, then gravitate towards the dark colors. But if it's, any other emotion, right? So let's talk about other emotions. We have the opposite of that, which would be more happy. We do have sad, but then we have fearful. I think fearful was translated in the meeting several times. I think there was the notion of uh, overcoming. So, what does that mean? What is that kind of a feeling? What color would that be? So, I'm just giving you a few ideas. You guys can write down some feelings that you may have had during the meeting before you do this actual project. I'm calling it a exercise. So what I'd like to do is switch my camera to a camera that is on my laptop that allows me to let you see what I'm doing with the paint. So I'm just going to some light greens, and I'm going to sort of work circular motion. Now, you can see how dark this is and how much water there is, but check this out. I could wash off my brush, so now my brush is completely clean. And now I'm just going to go in and add plain water to the same green, and I'm going to spread it out a little bit. So now you're using a more transparent version of this color. And then if I wash out my brush, tap it on my paint rag, and then come in here and do that again, now it really spreads out that color. Isn't that cool? Now I could take a little bit of blue and just tap it right into that water. And do you see how it starts to do what watercolor does? So it really starts to bring itself out. So I really like that. So I'm going to surround it. And now on the other side, I'm going to think about emotions that were connected to love. And I'm going to add some red because that's what red feels like for me. And then I'm going to do the opposite of the blue, which would be more of a purple. Now, I'm going to think about feelings of transcendence, like forging through. Anyone that has to deal with, health-wise, something like HIV, the people that were in the room really made us feel like every day they battle through and they forge through to transcend. And so I think of this bright yellow, and I think about the sun and the sun's rays and what the sun means to us every day. Today was a day where the sun was out and it was 85 degrees, believe it or not. And I went outside and it was so sunny and kind of muggy at the same time, and like almost felt like the middle of summer. But at the same time, I could enjoy how my body felt being in that temperature and feeling the sun the way that we can on days like that. And so when I think about how that makes my body feel, it makes me think about words like transcendence, where you have these odds that just seem insurmountable. So how are there people that are living today that are dealing with such insurmountable odds and have been dealing with it for 20, 30 or more years, like these individuals told us? So if that's the case, what are they doing? How are they making that happen? Because I don't have HIV. I don't know what that feels like. So I don't know the power that you need to muster up inside to access, just to get through one day. I don't know what that feels like, but I do know that when I think of it and when I think of those feelings, I know how those feelings might appear if I'm using color, because my background as an artist has given me a lot of opportunity to express myself using this type of format. So some people are writers and they express themselves through creative writing. Some people are musicians and they express themselves in this way, but using an instrument. and music. My background is art, so I'm speaking from that standpoint. And the fact that we're doing the projects, the art projects, based on what our advisors have shared with us is another way for us to really, embrace this project. And by the way, I'm talking and I'm thinking about feelings, but I'm really allowing myself to be free and flexible in where the colors are going on the paper. I'm not really trying to control a lot of this. I'm trying to get colors throughout, but I don't want to impede what might naturally happen, right? So, that's something to consider when you're coming up with ideas for the piece that you're going to do that will gradually and eventually be on display. So there you have it. Here's some colors on our paper. You can see how I worked. You can see how I was just working and letting things just sort of flow. And so I will have this particular painting available for you guys to look at as a JPEG, along with a description of some of the things that I said prior to adding the colors. So good luck. I am excited to see what you guys might come up with for this exercise, and feel free to send me questions that you might have when you're starting the project, or while you're doing the project, or even when you've completed this exercise. So my email is clark237@oakland.edu. So feel free to send me an email if you have any questions, and we will see you at our next in-person meeting. Bye-bye.